let's also talk about who is going to be the biggest riser in this draft and try to be a little bold with it, of course. Sully, you can go first and sort of give your name and give like your, I think you give like maybe the consensus ADP and then like how high you think they'll go.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Byron Murphy, the second to be the first defensive player on the board. I think that is a legit possibility. RJ, Emery, and PropStars are making some great points about him potentially as a player that could hear his name first. I know we all hear about Dallas Turner and Jared Verse going to the Atlanta Falcons at number 8, or was it number 9, excuse me. So that to me, I think feels like somebody who is going to enter that conversation along with Latu. But I think that Byron Murphy is someone that is not getting a ton of coverage as a possible first defensive player off the board. But a lot of these sharps are pointing to him as a possible guy.
I like it. I mean, and you look at the Falcons, Bears at 8 and 9, and it's all the talk I feel like has been about Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, and the pass rushers. And then you have Murphy kind of sneaking in there as a defensive tackle who might be a better prospect. It just feels like teams value pass rushing more, or edge rushers more, which is why we've probably heard more about Dallas Turner. But I feel like he'd be a good fit with Raheem Morris in Atlanta.
And I'll tell you this, I actually don't know how bold that is real quick. I was just looking on DraftKings. Right now, this must have moved. He's plus 175 to now be the first defensive player.
I think it actually is he like to go like 6 or to go 8th overall or something like that? He's not
no, just first defensive player selected. It's Dallas Turner.
Oh, that moved. Yeah, that moved either today or like yesterday. I was looking and he was plus 350 to be the first defensive player. So I think you're spot on with that one there. And one of the things that is really being undersold when you think about the Falcons and Byron Murphy, like he's considered like fairly easily the best defensive. I think there's a lot of people who think he's the best defensive prospect in this class, but it's sort of one of those things where he's on the interior, but he does rush from the interior. And you think about Aaron Donald, who, I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be Aaron Donald, but you want to have this disruptive defensive tackle who can rush the passer from the interior. That's what the Falcons have in Grady Jarrett. But Grady Jarrett is old, man. I mean, Grady Jarrett got drafted like 2015 or something like that. He's probably doesn't have that much longer in the league. And Raheem Morris, the coach who we're talking about, who's going to run the defense, came from the Rams, where he had Aaron Donald as the focal point of that defense. So why he knows he's got Grady Jarrett, who's like a homeless man's Aaron Donald. I mean, that's not even to knock on Grady Jarrett. It's just like Aaron Donald.
That's how good Aaron Donald is. Yeah.
Right. It's like you want to be a one-legged, one-armed homeless man's version of Aaron Donald, and you're still a really good defensive player. But you add Byron Murphy there, and you can pick up a pass rusher later in the draft, and suddenly like you look at the Falcons, and they're kind of cooking with gas, and are a very interesting team, make the team better offensively in free agency, and then make it better defensively in the draft. So yeah, I think those of us who follow it closely, maybe it wouldn't shock people when he goes early, but I do think people will be like, oh, like I didn't see Byron Murphy's a top 10 pick coming into this. Who you got, Rich?
I had Michael Penix to start, but we kind of talked about him with the quarterback stuff, and you guys mentioned how high he could end up shooting up, and that his under is juiced so much, 32.5, that it feels like he's going to be a first rounder. So I'm going to go with Cooper Jean and just say that he's going to be a top 15 pick. I feel like right now the consensus is right around. A lot of people are projecting him to go 22nd to the Eagles. Feels popular. I don't think I've seen very many mocks that have him going in the top 15, but I just feel like there are so many teams that are itching for a defensive back, for a cornerback in the top 15. You look at the Broncos, the Raiders, the Colts. I think those are 3 teams who, everybody's connecting Terrion Arnold or Quinyon Mitchell. And then you have kind of this versatile guy who can do anything. He's an interesting chess piece to put with a defense. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets picked ahead of Mitchell or Arnold. Maybe not the first DB, but the second DB. So that's why I'm saying the top 15 and one of the first 2 DBs off the board.
Yeah, I think Indy's a really interesting spot for him at 15. So you'd be spot on. You'd get right in there because I like them to maybe get another wide receiver or a pass catcher. Like if Brock Bowers is there, or if there's like a legit, if somehow some dude falls out of the wide receiver trio, then sure, you jump on it. But I don't know if anybody like that's going to be there for them. So I would love for them to continue to solidify that secondary. And if you could bring in a guy like Cooper Jean, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think it's a great name. Penix would be the guy. Penix is the guy that I was going to mention too, but you're right. We did already talk about him. I think I don't know. I'm curious to see if like how much of this Penix stuff is smoke and how much is fire. I mean, you hear Brady Quinn said yesterday on the podcast, he's like his tape, like he might have the best tape in the class of any quarterback, just in terms of like what he did at Washington and how he played the final game, losing to Michigan, the playing the way he did, certainly taints it a little bit. His age, the injury history, all that is there, but like just the tape. And, I mean, I think sometimes look, the age thing, it matters. He and Bo Nix are older, but it's also like, hey, this isn't like, Cooper, Brandon Whedon. Why did I say Cooper? It isn't like Brandon Whedon where he's 29 and he played in like this, granted he played against, Pac-12 defenses. I don't know. I think teams are quarterback thirsty and they don't mind the idea of throwing this guy in there from Jump Street.
I really think it's conceivable that he's a top 10 pick. And I think the Jets spot at number 10 specifically makes a lot of sense, because if all of a sudden, let's just say Minnesota trades up, or if Minnesota even stays pat, but J.J. McCarthy's off the board, including the top 3 consensus in Williams, Daniels, and May, you have kind of a bidding war going on at 10 to either leapfrog Minnesota, or if you are Minnesota, to move up to 10 to eliminate a leapfrog scenario between the Raiders, the Saints. You could even talk about the Broncos. There's a lot of teams, even, Seattle, I've mentioned them as a possible Penix landing spot just because of the OC. There's a lot of teams in those mid-teens, early teens that might want to just leap in front of everybody else to take that quarterback. Yeah,
Seattle, a wild card for sure to take a possible quarterback. The one thing with Seattle is like, if you're going to keep rolling with Geno, what's that?
It was Sam Howell too. They brought in.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't give up much. I was thinking more like you're drafting a guy in Penix who's already older, and then you're gonna, although I mean they drafted Russ, who was an older prospect when he was coming out of Wisconsin. So who knows? Okay. The other guy I'll throw out there for a possible riser, and I'm credit to Pete Prisco had this in his what teams should do mock draft, which by the way, we're like trolling Pete by telling him that we think it's his real mock draft. He's like, "Don't you idiots know how to read?" Like, he's like freaking out, like yelling at us. We're like, no, Pete, your final mock predicted Jaden Daniels going first overall. Like, I'm sorry, that's what you predicted. You're locked in. He's like, "It's not a real mock. I have another mock coming out." Anyway, Chop Robinson. Like, here's the thing with this pass rush class, the edge rusher out of Penn State. You have Latu from UCLA, and then you have Dallas Turner from Alabama. Everything is so focused on these quarterbacks and these receivers, and then the offensive linemen. Like, I think it's really being lost that you could, and Byron Murphy there as well. Like, I don't think it's inconceivable that you end up seeing Chop Robinson, who, by the way, he's 60-1 to be the first edge or defensive lineman off the board. That's a pretty good little splash to take, I think, at FanDuel, where maybe maybe I don't know. Like, everybody's blocking in the Titans to take a offensive lineman, and I get it. And I think they're going to do that, but teams can say, "Oh, I don't know. We think this guy's a really good edge player. We're just going to draft the pass rusher." And I think everybody just sort of lost sight of the defensive players in this draft.
Well, not only that, Will, it's said that this entire draft is wide receiver and tackle deep. So if you just go into that logic, you'd say, okay, maybe we take the defensive player first, and we'll be fine with whatever that constellation is at tackle or wide receiver later.